Hey, Zach.
Oh, hey, Sharnold, what's up?
Recently, I've found myself with just a lot of time on my hands. Maybe what I would call a dangerous amount of time on my hands.
Uh-oh.
And I'm really looking for something fun that I can do that can occupy my time and like really occupy my time. Something that I can really focus in on so that I don't have to bother spending time with loved ones or showering or, going to work or anything like that. Do you know of anything that might be able to take my attention away in such a manner?
Oh boy, I sure do. Go, random bullshit, go! Well, when you put it like that, I don't have an argument for you.
Depending on what year it is and who's writing the story.
God. Spoiler alert.
Delicious.
That's fanatically confusing. I liked it more the other way when it was fuck balls crazy.
What was the point of any of this?
I don't fucking know.
Yay!
Yay!
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Doombots Marvel Podcast. We're your Doombots. I'm Sharnold.
And I'm Zach.
And this is the best Marvel podcast on the internet.
Depending on how you define best.
And how are we defining best this week, Zach?
Cyberpunk 2077. The only way to define best. Now, I will admit that it is not a great definition for being related to Marvel in any capacity.
You don't think so?
I don't.
I bet if we stretched it, we could find a correlation between the two.
There are a few parodies of the occasional comic book or Marvel property, sort of. Although the only actual parody of a superhero I can think of from the Cyberpunk 2077 game is of Batman, which is not Marvel. I know.
So close. Marvel did recently release a tabletop RPG game.
Oh, so in that case, it's like that. And Marvel has also released video games, and this is a video game.
Right. Yeah,
and Marvel has also released some comics. And 2077 has a comic written by one of my favorites, Cullen Bunn.
I know him.
Yeah. There's also a Cyberpunk novel. There might be multiple Cyberpunk novels.
So what you're trying to say is that there's not a lot of lore. It's really small and something that someone could get through in a reasonable amount of time.
I will say that there is less lore than all of Marvel Comics, but I will say the lore of this is ridiculously more consistent. Now,
that's pretty easy to do.
It's not hard. Well, it's actually kind of interesting. Now, let me give a little bit of a background.
Ooh, he sat up and put his serious voice on.
This is it's Cyberpunk. I don't know. So, what's really interesting about the Cyberpunk franchise is that it began in the 80s with a tabletop role-playing game created by Mike Pondsmith, who actually played a major role in developing the story with CD Projekt Red, the game that came out in 2022, I think, maybe 2020 actually. It's right around the time that all the world had shut down.
Right.
Yeah. And essentially, Mike Pondsmith actually even has a voice role in the game as a radio DJ who drops deep cut lore, but that's fine.
Just like Stan Lee exists inside the Marvel Comics.
That's okay. So this is the best Marvel podcast on the internet. If you define best by talking about a thing that involves a cameo in the same way that Marvel involves cameos sometimes.
There you go.
There we go. That's a definition of sorts. Anyway,
that's the type of podcast I've always wanted to listen to myself.
That specific type of, just they match up vague quasi relationships to other things.
Yeah.
Well, I got you covered. So he began a tabletop role playing game called originally just called Cyberpunk, and then Cyberpunk 2013 was the original name of the thing.
Oh, that's a different year.
It is, and it was set in 2013. What's really interesting is every time there's been a new version of the tabletop game, they've updated the lore and the year and is consistently in the same timeline. So there was a sequel called Cyberpunk 2022.
Which came out in 88?
99, I think.
Okay.
So it came out in the 90s. The original book had all this great art, hand-drawn art, very 80s, but it kind of visually went a long way to defining a cyberpunk look. I mean, the cyberpunk game is in the sort of pantheon of the cyberpunk genre, right next to Neuromancer and Blade Runner and like all of the formative foundation of this as a genre visually and what we think of when we think of cyberpunk as a genre.
Mm-hmm. In that original tabletop RPG book.
Yeah, and the follow-up. Then Cyberpunk Red came out, which was set in the 2040s.
Is this still a tabletop RPG?
Yes, but it is specifically designed to be a bridge between Cyberpunk 2077, the game, and the original rule books in the 20s.
Okay. Like, in what way is it a bridge?
It just fills in the gap in time of like what happened.
Like a story bridge.
Yes. So there's obviously a 50-plus year gap between 2022, or it might have been 2020. No, it's 2022. Between 2022 and 2077. And
only years that are multiples of 11.
yes.
That's the most important thing.
I mean, I don't know. 2044 might have been when Red was set. I'm not sure. Oh, they missed it with 2013, though. It could have been 2011, and then it would have been perfect. But with 2077, obviously, there's a lot that happened between the two time periods.
Right.
And so Cyberpunk Red tried to kind of fill that in. And it's called Cyberpunk Red for a very specific reason that I will get into as we go into the world building aspect of this.
Okay. Is it like a surprise, or was this like a thing that everybody knew?
If you've only played the game, the video game, so much of what takes place in the video game, you don't need to have ever played any of the tabletop role-playing games to fully understand what's going on in the main quests and the story in the world, right? But if you do know a lot about what's going on in the past and the rich history and lore of the game, Cyberpunk 2077 is I don't know, maybe 70,000 times more rewarding and fulfilling and exciting and immersive.
That's a lot of times.
It's a lot of times. So what I would like to do for this episode,
I want to know how you calculated that.
Gut vibe.
Okay.
And then some calculus.
Oh.
But I don't remember how I got the numbers to input and the factors. So we'll just go with 70,000. And also it sounded like 77. So basically what I don't want to talk too much about the actual Cyberpunk game's main quest line.
Because we don't spoil shit on this podcast.
Not because we don't spoil it, but just because most people kind of, if they haven't played the game, they sort of get the idea. But I will give a broad overview really quick.
Yeah, for like what if someone up to this point still has no fucking clue what we're talking about yet?
Yeah, okay. So if somehow you don't know what cyberpunk is, like as a genre, it's set
possible
in a bleak quasi-dystopian future, not fascist, but like corporatist, like capitalism, peak capitalism run amok, right? And
high-tech, low-fi?
It's high-tech, low-life.
Low
That's
life.
the definition of the cyberpunk genre, like the logline of the cyberpunk as a genre. So it's the name of this game, but also it's a whole narrative genre of stories and books. Cyberpunk 2077 doesn't have a monopoly on that genre. And that is actually a point of contention for some people who feel like, oh, this doesn't represent what I feel is cyberpunk and stuff like that. Because Shadowrun is a big cyberpunk thing, but it involves fantasy, like trolls and gnomes and demons and shit like that.
Yeah.
This mostly doesn't have any fantasy elements. There might be some werewolves in the Badlands, but they're scientific.
They're science werewolves.
They're science werewolves. And they aren't for sure real. They could just be the ravings of a mad lunatic.
Oh.
But there are also, in the deeper lore, genetically modified gangs of killer clowns. Anyway, the point is...
oddly, that still feels like regular cyberpunk to me.
It is. There's,
like genetically modified killer clowns is right up there when I think of cyberpunk.
There is some stuff that sort of muddies the waters or sort of blurs the line between like deep sci-fi and possibly actual supernatural stuff. but it's a lot of that is also deep concealed. So I'll get into that.
Okay, yeah.
Let me start off.
So Cyberpunk is high tech, low life.
Yes. So it takes place in Night City, the video game. I'm going to focus on the video game at first.
Okay.
Video game is set in 2077, hence the name. It is not the 2077th iteration of. It's not like that number of sequels. It is set in Night City, which is it's like Morro Bay. So it's set not NorCal, but like upper SoCal. Mm-hmm. So it's set in Morro Bay in San Jose. That's what became Night City. Okay. And Night City is this huge sprawling metropolis broken up into tons of districts and tons of neighborhoods that all each have their own personality. You play as a mercenary named V. So you can either be a male character or a female character.
Do I wear a Guy Fawkes mask?
You do not. Apparently they chose V because so if you're a male, you find out at some point that your name is Vincent. And if you're a female character, your name is Valerie. But as a merc throughout the entire game, you go by V. You can start the game with 3 different life paths, which is sort of like a narrative storytelling way to build the role-playing part of your character.
Okay.
But other than some dialogue options throughout the game, 99% of all of your playthroughs are the same, whether you start with the 3 life paths are corpo. So you start off as a corporate officer, like somebody who works for one of the major megacorps, and you sort of get framed and kicked out without any money or anything.
That happened to you in your history.
You actually play through your intro that way.
Oh, okay.
So if you start a life path of corpo,
that is different.
It is different. So like your intros will be different. Like the first 10 minutes of the gameplay will be different.
Because it sets up.
Right.
Yeah.
Or you can play as a street kid, which is you basically grew up in Night City. And so you are more familiar with the gangs that go on there and stuff. And you can, in dialogue options, you can talk to people as if you already have a bit of a name for yourself on the street. And then there's the nomad life path. Nomads are basically outside of the city are the Badlands, which are like these just desolate wastelands because of climate change and stuff like that. And nomads are like clans of drifters who live in the deserts, and they're nomadic clans of like motorheads and like people who soup up their cars and live in like camps.
And so if you're a nomad, did you come into Night City on purpose?
You do. You come into Night City. I've only played the nomad path once, and I don't remember caring that much about it. But you basically have to come in to the city for a job. Mm-hmm. With all 3 life paths, at some point you cross paths with another character named Jackie Wells, who immediately becomes your best friend.
Yay, friends.
Yeah, friends. You have to do these missions, you have to go these things, and then you have to go on a heist with Jackie to steal what's called a relic, which is a little chip. Everybody has these ports in their heads they can slot chips into. It's how data is read and everything, because everybody's bio-augmented. So everybody has like neuroports and like scanners and digital eyes and cyberware in their bodies.
Yeah, that's all. So everyone is basically a cyborg.
To varying degrees. There are some people who are fully what they call organic, which is a short for organic.
Yeah.
But anyway, long story short, and without spoiling it too much, shit goes wrong in that mission, and you have to slot the thing in your head. And it turns out that the thing in your head has the construct of a personality of a person from the 2020s whose name is Johnny Silverhand. Played by Keanu Reeves.
Oh.
So Keanu Reeves.
I know him.
And it looks like, it just looks like John Wick, but with a big cybernetic arm, hence Johnny Silverhand, because he had a silver hand. He was a rock star from the 2020s who was like also a sort of, depending on how you look at it, terrorist, very anti-corporate. And he got his entire personality put onto this, what's called the relic, or this chip.
Is that a common thing for
no,
people
in fact,
to do?
He might be one of the only people to have a relic like that.
Gotcha.
There are people whose personalities are in a database, but it's not common. No. And what happens is you get betrayed and shot in the head, and then
I hate it when that happens.
Nanites that were on the relic start rebuilding your brain, but Johnny's personality starts overlapping your personality.
Oh, and that's interesting.
At this point, when this happens, the game you've been playing for probably about 4-ish hours, and that's when Act 1 starts. And that's if you've just played
a quick
through.
Game.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like 120 plus hour runtime typically. So essentially, you then have Johnny Silverhand, this, they call them rocker boys, which were just like rock stars, but they were like rock stars who also would fight and kill and all that kind of stuff.
They were anarchists.
Yeah, like anarchist,
the way that the
mercenary
best
rock stars. Yeah. And he's sort of just like your bestie who lives in your head. Now, you guys have a very contentious relationship, but he has a quote that I really like that about a couple hours in. Well, let me read this quote really quick. You're starting to remind me of me 50 years back, minus the charisma and impressive cock. And that's sort of who Johnny Silverhand is. He's kind of a big asshole who has huge delusions of grandeur about him, and you talk to him like he's like an imaginary friend that you just see, and no one else can. And there's even a point in which you're talking to him out loud, and everyone starts like looking at you, and he's like, "You can just think at me. You don't have to talk." And so then you go and you're trying, but the problem is his personality is overwriting yours, and there's nothing you or him can do about it.
Oh, it's just an automatic.
It's just happening.
You got shot,
and so you now have to try to find a way to solve this problem.
Yourself? Yeah.
And there's a bunch of different paths you can take, a bunch of different loyalties you can have, and as you go through, that's how the game plays out. Those are the main missions. There is so much in the world building lore of this universe. There are hundreds of, if not thousands of, you can also read emails, and there are like messages sent in private texts. You have a phone and people just text you and call you all the time. You can overhear conversations on the streets. NPCs just have full conversations with each other on the streets that tell lore.
Okay, and these have nothing to do with the game.
They have nothing to do with the main quest or even marked side quests. In fact, there are many things that happen in the game that are not quests at all. You just overhear them and they build the lore, but you could just as easily not have walked down that street.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's amazing. It's one of the most complex and kind of interconnected web of things that I've ever seen in any game.
Like, here's the thing. If I want to know about Marvel, I know what to do. Read more Marvel comics.
Yes.
But other than, like, listening to this podcast or Googling it, if you're in the game, like, you don't know where that alley is where the two people are having the conversation that reveals this important thing.
And more than that, making it much more complicated than that, certain conversations won't happen unless other things have happened. Unless you've done a mission that will change some of the conversations that are had.
That's cool.
It's great. Some of the random interactions that occur only occur at certain times of the day. So if you go in every single alley, you have to go in every single alley every single hour, essentially. Not, usually it's a day-night cycle sort of thing, but not sometimes. Sometimes it's not. And also, sometimes the random events don't trigger, even if you do go down that street at that time, because they're set on different time cycles, or the right NPC isn't in the right place at the right time. And so there's so much that is easily missed. And there's also, even when you're doing your main quests, a lot of times there are secret alternatives to what you are presented as an option.
What do you mean by that?
So, for example, you could, like, whenever you're talking, it gives you a couple of dialogue options, right? Sometimes it only gives you one dialogue option. Sometimes it gives, the dialogue options come up, an orange dialogue option means that will move on to the next part of the conversation.
Okay.
Blue dialogue options mean you will get more information, more lore, but you will still have a chance to ask the orange one.
Okay.
So blue dialogue conversations won't move you past this part of the conversation.
But there's something that if you don't give a shit about lore, you can just skip.
Yeah, you can basically just get into the meat of the conversation. But sometimes there's also, when a person tells you to do something, you can just, like, not do it. and then the game has to adapt to that. So, for example, there's this one part after and there's spoilers here, I'm just letting you know, after the main heist in the beginning goes wrong, where you go back to a fixer and he goes, go wash up, you got blood all over. And while you're doing that in the bathroom, he's secretly planning to kill you. But if you don't go to the bathroom, you can overhear a conversation he's having trying to book a flight out of the city. And then you can ask him about that. And that dialogue option only comes up if you just don't go to the bathroom. And he goes, oh, don't worry about it. I'm just setting something up. Go to the bathroom. And you could just not go to the bathroom again. He goes, I told you to go to the bathroom. And then the guy will... And the end result's the same. You still get beaten up and shot and everything. But all of this dialogue happens that you don't have any indication will happen unless you just don't do it.
It's an interesting take on the idea of replayability.
Yes, very much so.
Because it's not just that the occurrences will be a little different, and so, you have a little more wiggle room to, experiment, do things differently the second or third time you go through. But the things that you learn about the entire universe that you're inhabiting are different.
Yes. And
yeah, that's weird. That's hard for me to wrap my... Because, okay, so like when I play a game, I'm a completionist, right? And I like to 100% games.
Yeah.
And it sounds like if you include listening to the lore as part of 100%ing...
I mean, it's not infinite.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you could live long enough to do it, but there's just so much, and so much of it is hidden. I'd like to step back from the game, though, and go back in time.
Our favorite thing to do in this podcast is time travel.
Well, luckily, there isn't any time travel in this. Luckily,
probably.
I don't know of any time travel in this, but essentially, the timeline of Cyberpunk 2077 splits off from the World of Tangible Things timeline in the 1980s. So the last president who existed, like the last real life president, was George H.W. Bush in the 80s. Then everything kind of changes. Essentially, and it's not worth sort of going into how everything played out, but
tell me everything.
Well, another big difference is the Soviet Union doesn't fall. And one of the big interesting things is the US dollar completely loses all value. And when the FBI, the CIA, and a couple other US intelligence agencies are caught actively trying to devalue European markets, and no one in the world trusts us anymore, and so the dollar isn't worth anything anymore, and America just collapses, like just loses their shit, and there's rioting in the streets, millions of people start killing each other. It's madness, right?
Semi-post-apocalyptic is common with Cyberpunk.
Yeah, like this isn't so much post-apocalyptic as it is nightmarishly possible.
Well, it's not an apocalypse per se, but there was a horrible downfall.
Yes, it's actually called the collapse. And after that, the US dollar loses all value, and widely accepted now is what's called the European dollar. Now, this is
the euro.
Like the euro, but this is my favorite thing about Cyberpunk, or one of them, is that, Marvel's acronyms. You know how
I know many of Marvel's acronyms.
You know how they feel maybe just a little bit strained and not organic, as they would say. And like you could see the gears working to make it shoehorn it in. The acronyms in Cyberpunk feel born of the world. So when everywhere you go, everything is paid for in eddies, right? Not units or creds or any of the other sci-fi bullshit. Eddies. Because European dollar, ED, ed, eddy.
Oh, okay.
You can see the steps they took, and they feel like steps that would actually take place to become a term used in this world.
Yeah.
Another one that I love.
Natural linguistic development.
Yes.
As opposed to bullshit.
Just here's what it is. So, like, another example is like a term for friend in cyberpunk slang is choom, right? Like chum, but CHOOM, choom, which is short for chumba, which is short for chumbada, but that's like a common term. So people who are your chooms, right? Idiots are gonks. Like, there's all this slang that is universal.
I love gonk. I think I'm going to take gonk.
Gonk is great because I don't know what the linguistic origin of it is, but it just, you hear that and you think, oh, that person's an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, it just immediately fits. But so that's one of the great things is, like, so we accept the European dollar, the eddy. Around this time, mega corporations start popping up.
We're into the 90s now, the fictional 90s?
Yeah, fictional 90s, early 2000s. In the 90s is when Richard Knight, who is the founder of Night City.
Ooh.
Yeah, so Night City isn't called Night City because it's dark or anything.
That makes me sad.
No. I love it.
I wanted a nighttime Batman type night.
Well, so it definitely is that, but unintentionally. His name is Richard Knight. He wanted to call it, I believe, Santo Domingo, which ends up being one of the districts in Night City, but Coronado City. He wanted to call it Coronado City.
Okay.
He's killed. He's taken out by assassins, but Night Corp still exists, which is his company. He founded Night City. He made Night City. He worked with a bunch of other multinational companies to make Night City. So some of the big corporations are Arasaka, which is a Japanese-based company that does weapons and technology, vehicles, stuff like that. Militech, which is the same thing but American-owned. There's Zetatech, Night Corp, and Biotechnica, which ostensibly was using cloning technology to bring back flora and fauna that had been destroyed by climate crisis.
Okay.
Secretly, they were doing human cloning, but that is not brought up in the game, but it is in the background.
Well, that's not even brought up in the game.
No, but it is strongly hinted at and all of them are the most evil. Like,
well, yeah,
there's a ranking of who's the most evil, but I mean, like, the anti-corporate greed of this world is just
unbelievable. Now, is Night City special or different in some way?
Yes.
Or are there, big sprawling metropoli all over the world?
I do believe there are some other sprawling cities. I don't believe any are as big as Night City or as populated or as infamously
seedy.
Full
of assassins.
There is a very Judge Dredd feeling to the lore of Night City, where, in Mega City 1 in Judge Dredd, as they say in the movie Dredd with Carl Urban, that's fantastic, is that the city's a meat grinder. Mm-hmm. Like, just your life expectancy is not. Like, you just don't have one. like every single day is a roll of the dice. And Night City feels very much like that. You'll walk through Night City and just gang wars will just pop up around you, and they have nothing to do with you, and that you do not need to participate in, but you can if you want to. Night City is a not lawless exactly, although there is a whole section that is literally lawless because the police won't enter it. That's called Pacifica. We'll get there.
Okay. I used to live in Pacifica.
That was a real place?
It's a, quote, suburb of San Francisco.
Oh, I'm sure that's where they got the name, because that's where that whole area is. In this case, it is a nightmarish hellhole where the police aren't allowed to enter because, and I'll explain why. So, essentially, the corporations start building Night City, and then they start trying to attract everyone in. During the collapse, like, all the states were like, we're just going to be separate now. Like, there's no more U.S. government. And then the NUSA formed, which was the new USA.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be not.
No, the NUSA was basically, like, what was remained after a bunch of states declared themselves to be independent sovereign states. Okay?
Did they each come up with a new currency? Or were they all using eddies?
I don't know. Okay. I'm not sure. I think mostly everything was eddies because it was the reliable form of, like, agreed upon currency.
And what year are we ish in?
The Free States was early 2000s.
Okay.
And Night City is being built.
Okay.
So then there was the things called the corporate wars.
Okay.
So
This doesn't
I could do a whole episode just on corporate wars, but
like generic corporate wars or
so
the
this is what's so
corporate
great about it
wars?
is it is written like a history text.
What is written that way?
The story of the corporate wars.
Okay.
Like the lore is all written like it is documentation in a history textbook that you would read if you lived in Night City. They have the specific... So Trans World Air, TWA at the time, went bankrupt, and 2 other aerospace companies wanted to take it over, right? And one tried, but the bid was rejected, so the other company put their bid in. Then this company hired mercenaries to literally kill the negotiators. And it started open warfare where both companies started buying the military services and killing other members of the other companies. Mm-hmm. And it was the first time that companies had ever gone to war with each other. And because there was no real oversight or government regulation or anything, it just happened. And finally it was settled. And then the second corporate war happened like a year later because other companies were like, we can do this now. Then there was a long pause.
That's a terrifying precedent.
Oh, it's yes, in the game too.
But like if Amazon hired mercenaries.
Yes. It's exactly that.
They have enough money to hire a quantity of mercenaries,
and they have that kind
that would rival
a
most armies.
And think about it like this, though. Imagine that there was a societal collapse that had happened that actually made it so being a mercenary for a company was not only legal, but maybe your only job option.
Yeah.
So these corporate wars continued, and the third corporate war, I can't even remember who it was, but I think it was between... The second corporate war was between Sov Oil, which is the Soviet oil company, and Petrochem, which was a multinational oil company. And one of Petrochem's offshore oil rigs blew up, and they thought it was an attack by Sov Oil, so they started blowing up Sov Oil, and there was a huge war. It lasted like a long time, and eventually they both were forced to concede because they killed each other's CEOs, and it was a whole thing. And then later they found out that the oil rig explosion was a full accident. And
that's great.
Yeah.
Now, to get into the idea of the lore of this world.
Yes.
How did you learn that, and how would a player learn that?
Well, a mix of I've read the rule books and the game books, which have tons of lore in them, as a lot of RPG game books do.
Right. So is this backstory all in like the original tabletop RPG?
Very little of this backstory is in 2077.
Uh-huh.
Some of it exists in different data shards you can read in different histories and stuff, but a huge amount of it exists in the other stuff. And there are people who compile lore from the game and from other stuff on YouTube, and I've just been obsessively listening to all of that as well. The fourth corporate war is the big one.
Okay.
The fourth corporate war is the war to end all wars. It takes place in
We've had those before.
Yes.
and it worked.
So it takes place in the 2020s. Mm-hmm. And essentially there are these 2 companies that start fighting each other, and they want to go to war. Instead of hiring mercenaries that work for that company, one of the companies contracts their assassins, because now this is a fully possible thing, to Militech, which is the arms manufacturing private mercenary group that makes all the weapons in America and the world. The other group contracts out to Arasaka.
Okay.
So these 2 companies have hired mercenary multinational mega corporations to fight their war for them. Spreads throughout the entire world because Militech and Arasaka have bases in every country, and they start just committing acts of terror against each other everywhere. Finally, after several years, there is pressure put on the two companies that started this war to sign to
some sort of agreement.
Yeah. But the two Militech and Arasaka companies,
they don't want that to happen.
Not they don't want that to happen. They have made it personal for them. Mm-hmm. And they go into what's called the Shadow War, which is where they're like, yeah, okay, you guys aren't involved in this anymore. You just go do your thing. We're just going to keep fucking killing each other. Not Yorinobu. Sabaru Arasaka, who is the head of the Arasaka family, who's also like in 2077 150 years old. There's a lot of life extension tech that goes into the game. So there are some characters who are like 100 and they look like they're 40. Anyway, he creates a thing called the Soul Killer program, which is a device. I'm still a little unsure exactly how it works, but it captures your engram, your personality into a thing like Johnny Silverhand. Right. But it can be uploaded like through a headset thing. And so he captures the engram and enslaves and then kills the body of the CEO of Militech.
So how? like does he shoot him with a ray gun?
No, he gets him to click on a link, basically.
Oh, okay.
It's basically a malware that captures your soul.
Okay, great.
So, then the Shadow War just turns into the war, the fourth corporate war, and killing is going on in every single country. Whole towns are being decimated. Rio de Janeiro is destroyed from orbital bombardment and lasers. Ooh. There's just mass devastation on a global scale. And so finally, governments get their shit together and they put their problems behind and they nationalize the companies. So basically they're like, you guys are not allowed to be private companies anymore.
Yeah.
And eventually the corporate war settles a little bit. During this time, there's a thing called the data crash.
Okay.
It's way too much to get into. But the data crash involves a hacker named Bartmoss. Raish Bartmoss. That's his name. It's a fucking crazy ass name. So
Moss Bart Raish.
Raish Bartmoss creates... so the net exists, the internet.
Sure.
And it's filled with AIs. Tons of AIs that people use to do stuff. And also some AIs that were just there that may have made themselves. And there's actually, which is my favorite thing in the world, there is a active theory in the game from people who live in the game, exist in the game, who have theorized that the net that they had in this world wasn't invented. It was discovered. And it already existed. And that the AIs are sort of living consciousnesses, and the people who made the net just figured out a way to tap into basically what's like a parallel dimension, but like a digital dimension. And the AI, so that's a conspiracy theory within the game.
That's sounding a little more magic-y than
that's the part that comes the closest to the supernatural, but it's important.
Okay.
So at a certain point, Raish Bartmoss develops a thing called the Rabbids, which is a virus. They are basically a computer virus that self-replicates and corrupts the personalities of AIs. And so the net becomes filled with dangerous rogue AIs, right?
Okay.
Now, you're thinking, well, what does that matter?
Or what does it mean, even?
Because everyone has cyberware, everyone is linked to the net neurologically. And so
now these AIs are what, killing, like physically killing people?
They can. So NetWatch, which is like this European organization, comes in and puts up what's called the Black Wall.
Okay.
Essentially,
is it like a firewall?
It's a firewall that separates the old net from the city net. So the internet that exists in 2077 is basically just like the South Korean intranet where there's like 9 websites.
Okay.
It is all controlled by Netwatch. Everything is regulated. Everything is managed.
And there are no evil AIs in it.
There are no AIs of any kind. In fact, most AIs are illegal, except for the one that runs all the cabs, and his name's Delamain, and definitely has his own personality, and keeps mentioning how he doesn't want to raise any attention to that fact because it's sort of just through bribery and luck that he hasn't been regulated by Netwatch yet. It's a whole thing. Anyway, data crash happens, and Arasaka has basically sort of a backup of the net. Not exactly a backup, but all of the corporate data. Mm-hmm. And Militech, long story short, brings a nuclear bomb into Arasaka headquarters in the heart of Night City's corporate district.
Ah.
And in, I believe, August 20th, 2023, I think, detonates a nuclear bomb in Arasaka Tower in the heart of Night City. And it becomes a complete hot zone. Hundreds of thousands of people die. And finally, the government's like, okay. Okay. And like, it doesn't look good for Militech. It doesn't look good for Arasaka. It doesn't look good for anybody. And all of the corporate center goes in what's called the time of the red, which was literally the sky turns red with dust and irradiated clouds, and the entire middle of the city. Now, it wasn't like a huge thermonuclear bomb, and it was only supposed to blow up the data servers, which were encased in lead. It was supposed to be like kind of contained to just the building, but for one reason or another, it didn't work, and it blew everything up.
The whole city?
The building, but also the heart of the city. Mm-hmm. And it was irradiated for the next 30 to 40 years.
Okay. It's actually surprisingly short amount of time for radiation to disperse.
Yes. And that's because the entire city obviously is thrown into complete and utter chaos. But corporations start coming back in to help rebuild the corporate center. So this is sort of what I mean when I say that there's an intense and very specific history that plays out. Mm-hmm. There's so much more that happens in every single aspect of the history of the game.
So when you're playing 2077,
yes,
does the fact that the city, I'll call it a city, that you're in used to be irradiated, does that come up? Or is it just
only in that there's one section where there's like a giant sign that says like don't be downwind of this during storms and stuff like that. But there are like reminders that this happened. But you won't even understand what those reminders are if you don't know. Although the attack on Arasaka Tower was conducted by Militech, but Johnny Silverhand was also involved, but you don't know why exactly, and you play it through his memories. And what's really interesting is there's several points in the game when you play his memories out. Like you control him, you use his weapons during these past events.
You are functionally existing in his past.
Yes, but it's an unreliable narrator because you're remembering them through his eyes, so you're much more important than what you actually were. And it's actually interesting because in the official lore from the RPGs, Johnny Silverhand was involved, but he wasn't instrumental in it. When you replay it, he is the one who put the nuke in the building. But that's only because in his memories, he is exaggerating his own importance.
Right.
So his memories are unreliable completely in the game, which explains what feels like plot holes, but are actually just an unreliable narrator lying to you inadvertently and lying to himself.
Yeah.
So